What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we are going over three cryptos that have relatively bullish charts forming right now. They're three cryptos that I think could have the potential to see some pretty decent growth over the short term. And so with that being said, while the market is a little bit boring, while not much is going on, it is of course important to kind of pay close attention to how these formations do happen, because we are of course just kind of ranging right now. But once these bullish formations start to happen, these indicators start to turn bullish, that could be a telltale sign that we may see some bullish momentum soon, and we of course want to be ahead of the curve. So with that being said, we're going to be looking at again three different cryptos that do seem to be forming some very bullish patterns, and of course we're going to be starting here with Bitcoin. Actually, this isn't one that I've talked about being bullish in quite a long time, but we are seeing a bit of bullishness on some of the smaller time frames, and it is something to keep a very close eye on. So as many of you do know, at the moment we have been really just ranging ever since the beginning of December, bouncing between 52,000 and 45.6 to 45.7 thousand, and we've not really been doing much else, just ranging. Now again, you guys know my opinion on this. I don't think it is a bad thing at all, and I think that it is something that definitely could lead us to see growth into the future. But if you do want more info on that, definitely go check out yesterday's video, as I highlighted that a little bit more. But in today's video, one thing that we are going to be paying attention to is the shorter time frames and a bit of the more, the larger time frames as well. Okay, so one thing we can see happening right now in the Bitcoin charts is that we are actually seeing the formation of what could possibly be an inverse head and shoulders on the 4-hour time frames forming from December 28th to now. Now, of course, what that's going to look like, let's go ahead and let's get this pulled out, is we're going to have a shoulder line sitting right around, or a neckline, sorry, sitting right around $48,000, in which we put in our left shoulder towards 46,000. From there, we came back up to retest this key level of resistance around 48,000. We then went in to put in the head, retested this line, and now it does seem as if we could be putting in a right shoulder somewhere in this little general vicinity. Okay, and so what we need to pay attention to is that as we are ranging right now between 48,000 and 45.6 thousand, if we're able to break 48,000, there is a bullish price target back up to the top side of the range in which we've been in, which could look like another move back up to the $50,000 plus. Now, of course, what's going to invalidate this, what says that this is not going to happen, is of course if we come back down under $45,600. If we get a daily close, or realistically any movement below that level, that does invalidate this pattern. It's just going to be a general downtrend at that point, and it is something that we can just consider, just dead, invalidated, or something that's not really relevant anymore. So on Bitcoin, what I'm keeping a close eye on is how this does play out, because in the event in which we do see that move happen, in which we break back above $48,000 and get a daily close, which is extremely important, we do have a breakout target sitting right up towards about $50.5 thousand. And so of course that could be very good, considering the fact that on the larger time frames we are monitoring how this does play out. Now, if you have been on the channel for a few days at least, you will know that we have been tracking this thing and thinking that there is the possibility that we could be looking at some type of double bottom, some type of W bottom here, which does have a beautiful breakout target to the top side, which could look something like it could look something like, a move back up towards the $58,000 area. And so, of course, what it's going to take to get there is us getting back up to $52,000. And considering the fact that on the 4-hour time frames, we do have that, some type of formation that gets us back in this general vicinity, I definitely think it's something to keep an eye on. And it's definitely something that I would keep on your radar. And so, of course, we're starting this off with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin does control the market. And so if Bitcoin starts to really move, I think this will also be a great catalyst for the other cryptos that we're going to talk about today to also see some pretty substantial growth. So turn your indicators on, turn your alerts on to $48,000, and if we do start getting a daily close there, do expect that we may see some type of backtest of support for sure. But I am under the belief that that could lead us to see some growth there, and it definitely could be worthwhile just to pick up a little bit. That's what I'm going to do. If we do see that break, if we do see that holding there, I'll probably pick up a little bit as well. So looking at Bitcoin to start off the video, that is looking pretty dang on bullish. Keep an eye on $48,000. Next up, we do have DOT. Now, DOT is one that I have been doing a little bit of buying on recently. I made a buy roughly, let's go to the Discord real quick. I had it pulled up already. December 23rd, took a little bit of profits off of Luna when it was actually at its all-time high, or right below its all-time high, and picked up some DOT at $28.04. And so of course, since we made that buy in the Discord, of course the price has gone up a pretty substantial 10%. It's doing quite well, and I am liking it, but at the moment there is something a little bit more interesting happening on the charts right now that I think is worth keeping an eye on. And what that's going to actually be is a formation of something of another inverse head and shoulders, but a rather large inverse head and shoulders, okay? So what we're paying very close attention to is how this thing has been playing out over the last couple days. Now, if we go ahead and just pay attention to how this bottom is forming, you can see that very similar setup. Now, this one is a little bit more ugly. It's not the prettiest inverse head and shoulders only ever, realistically. Some people could consider this to be more of a cup and handle pattern, and I think that's very justifiable as well, looking at something more of this nature. But either way, the price targets do remain quite the same. And so with that being said, we can see that on the daily time frames, we have this key level of resistance sitting right around $31.24, which is just $1 above where we are now. And if we are able to clear this, I do believe that that could lead us to see some pretty substantial growth in the price of DOT, especially if Bitcoin does make a larger move up past 48,000. Okay, now I'm going to highlight that. I think it's going to be very important that we do see Bitcoin starting to make a move before getting too excited about what this chart is going to be doing. Okay, because realistically, even if DOT does clear this $31.24 level, even if it clears it and holds it, and Bitcoin starts to take a dump, DOT's likely going to go down with it. And that's why it's equally as important to pay attention to both the charts of DOT and the charts of Bitcoin. But if we do see that move that we were talking about on the Bitcoin price, I do think that that could lead to DOT even have a further market catalyst that could allow a larger move to the top side to happen. So basically, the way in which I would be playing this is that if the market's not doing anything, if Bitcoin's staying flat, but DOT does make its move above $31.24, personally speaking, I will be taking on a very small trade. I don't like to take on big trades that are going against the market. What that means is if the market's staying flat or if the market's going down, but one crypto is still going up, I don't like to put large amounts of money into it because I don't like to bet against the market in that way. But I would definitely take on a little bit of a trade if we do start getting some daily closes up above this level, as we do have this price target, which is of course going to be based on the distance from the bottom of either your head or your cup, whichever one you want to go ahead and say, which is going to be, you know, sitting right up around, let's say, give it about $39.36, which could look like some growth of, you know, roughly another 20 to 25%. So that definitely could be a fantastic trade. I do like the long-term outlook of DOT. I think that it got extremely extended as we did get close to parachain auctions, but it's come back down to its key level of support and does seem to be holding very well. And it could definitely be the start of another upswing for it, maybe even back up to the $50 area. So I definitely want to take advantage of that. And I think it's all going to start by that clearing of $31.24 on the daily chart. So that's one to keep an eye on for sure. There may be a pullback on it in the short-term time frames. If we look at our Bollinger Bands here, one thing we can see is that once we get to that level, we are going to see some resistance from both our Bollinger Bands and that being its local resistance. And so don't even be surprised if maybe we hit it, pull back a little bit, maybe even come back down and then eventually see that break. But I think that if we get that break and an establishment of support, there definitely could be some pretty solid growth coming from DOT from that point forward. So it is one to keep an eye on. Now, the last one that I am paying attention to is ChainLink, and ChainLink is doing a very similar thing here. So we're not going to break it down too deep, but I would say that this cup and handle is much more obvious, and it is much stronger in my opinion. Of course, again, you can look at it as a cup and handle or an inverse head and shoulders. It really just depends on how you go ahead and make those measurements, but the breakout targets do tend to stay very similar, and the bullishness of those patterns are also very similar. And so what that means for us is that we have this cup line, or we have this this neckline right here sitting right around $23.11. So we're about 30 cents under it right now. And in the event in which we do get a daily close, the daily close will be important above this key level right here. I'm also under the belief again that we will see some pretty substantial growth from ChainLink if the market allows. And so this is another one that I think has a pretty solid chance of seeing even, you know, a continuous amount of growth if we clear this level, which could look like up to 20 to 25%. And so what that means for me is that considering the fact that we are also seeing an extension into the Bollinger Bands by the time we do get there, I am expecting that it will break through this level or find resistance at this level and eventually see a pullback. Looking at the time frames or the RSI on the daily time frames, you can see that we are getting towards the 60 level. So there is more room to grow towards the midterm. But in the short term, if we look at something like, let's just go down to the 4-hour RSI, one thing you can see is we are getting extended up into the overbought territory. And so it wouldn't necessarily surprise me to see a pullback, but I do believe that even if we do pull back, once we get a daily close above 23.11 and we're able to hold it, we definitely could see a move up towards the $30 to $28 region, which again, like we said, something of a 20 to 25% growth there. So overall, ChainLink, DOT, and Bitcoin seem to have the most bullish patterns and the most bullish indicators on the charts right now. Again, ChainLink's one we bought at a nice $21.07. And so that was the last positional increase that we did there. And since then, the price has gone up about 9%. So being able to make some gains here and do well while the market is still being pretty red or just boring in general, that is a good feeling. So I hope you guys are able to take advantage of that as well. Do remember, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell the future. None of this could play out. It could all just be absolute baloney. It's totally up to you, and it's up to you to do your own research. This is just the research that I've done. This is the studying and examinations of the realm of possibilities that I've done that have led me to these conclusions. And so, of course, that's why I'm sharing it with you all. So with that being said, that's going to be about it for today's video. Of course, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, you can let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And I'll see you next time. Peace.